Okay, so everybody is talking about the fire in the Amazon, which is good. Of course, things like this need coverage, things like this need to be paid attention to. But there is one fundamental issue with what's going on. Though the Amazon is burning, that is a very misleading way to say what is going on. The Amazon isn't just burning, it's being burned. In America, we have regulations and laws set in place about burning land. So when we hear about fires like this, we assume that they were accidents or they were natural or maybe caused by arsonists. But that's not the case with the Amazon. Ever since Jair Bolsonaro became president of Brazil in January of 2019, he's been decreasing environmental regulations and inspection. And now the Amazon rainforest is being intentionally burned by people for economic reasons. There's a lot of value in the land that the rainforest sits on, and nobody is making that sweet money, cash money off of it. Because most of the benefits that humans get from the Amazon rainforest is international. It produces rain, oxygen, and biodiversity that everybody has access to. But Brazil does not get paid for what their land provides. So the Brazilian government is encouraging legal logging and kind of ignoring illegal land grabs and burning as a form of deforestation. The land left over will then be sold to ranchers and repurposed for soybeans or livestock. And although this will be economically efficient for Brazil, it's going to be overall bad. The Amazon itself produces 6% of the world's oxygen, which is actually a really staggering number, and it also traps CO2. Loss of the rainforest will lead to a global increase in CO2 and a global decrease in oxygen, which is very bad for both people in general and also global warming overall. The Amazon's presence also majorly affects the temperature of South America. The Amazon is closer to the equator than North Africa, for example, so it receives more solar energy and more direct sunlight. But it is actually much cooler due to the rainforest. So as the Amazon burns, temperatures rise and less rain falls, because if you didn't know, rainforests don't just receive a lot of rain, they also produce a lot of rain in return. As the shift happens, it becomes hotter and drier, leading to an increased number of wildfires. And wildfires aren't a natural part of the Amazon in the same way that they are a natural part of fires in North America. A lot of the wildlife in the Amazon cannot survive these fires in the same way that wildlife in North America can. When more wildfires happen, we lose more rainforest, and then there are more wildfires. And this creates a cycle that could eventually lead to the loss of most, if not all, of the Amazon rainforest, whether that was the intention of the original burners or not. And because of how the water cycle works, rain that is produced in the Amazon falls all over the world. 70% of the GDP in South America comes from places where Amazon rain falls. And much of the rain in the US is also from that rainfall as well. And that rain feeds our agriculture. It grows our food. We eat Amazon rain. Another thing that is often overlooked is the fact that the Amazon is not empty. It's not just wildlife, it's not just animals and trees. There are indigenous groups of people who live in and depend on the rainforest, and they are often overlooked and not seen as true Brazilians due to nationalism and racism, and their needs and voices are being majorly overlooked in this entire situation.
Hello, hi, it's me from the future. I'm editing right now, and I would just like to say that this whole thing about indigenous and native voices being overlooked is actually incredibly common. It happens here in the US, and it happens in Canada, and it happens all over the world. And I just would really like to encourage you, if you're involved in any sort of activism or any sort of small government situations, if you could just reach out to those voices in your area, because often their needs are not met or their voices are just straight up ignored and not even thought about. And it's a really messed up situation. So I'd just really like to encourage you to reach out to those people because it's a major issue. Anyway, that's what I wanted to say. Back to the video.
The Amazon is being burned, and we could lose one of the most amazing and productive ecosystems on the planet. Bolsonaro may be aiming to generate revenue for his country, but the burning of the Amazon is affecting and will affect the world in ways that we are not prepared at all to handle. And this is just one example of how humans are directly impacting our planet and driving climate change. Now, to shift gears away from the Amazon for a second, I want you to look at something genuinely terrifying. This is a sea level rise graph that was published in a paper in 2016, but it is not the sea level rise graph that we usually see. We usually see graphs that look like this. Now this graph shows global means sea level, or GMSL. This shows where sea level is expected to have risen at a certain point in time. This graph shows about a meter rise by 2100. The blue part of the graph, RCP 2.6, you see the best case scenario. And this is where everybody gets on board with the whole climate change thing and works really hard and quickly and makes sure that the overall temperature rise is no more than 2 degrees Celsius. In red, RCP 8.5, this is the scenario where we do nothing, which is the track we're on right now. Now, if we switch back to the other one, on here, GMSO is just this little gray, insignificant bloop at the bottom of this graph. And that's because this graph shows sea level rise commitment. This graph doesn't show where sea level will be at that certain point in time, but rather what we have signed up for it to be at that certain point in time. Because it takes time for heat to move around. It takes time for ice to melt. The effects of global warming that we are experiencing right now is not what we are producing right now, it's what we produced decades ago. And what we are producing now is what we will see the effect of decades in the future. If we follow the worst case scenario to 2100, we will have 1 meter of sea level rise, but we will have signed up for 6 meters. Even if we completely stopped all CO2 emissions right now, these effects will still take place. Even if it's 100, 200 years from now, it will still happen and it will still be catastrophic. This would happen even if we started to decrease the amount of CO2 currently in the atmosphere. If we wait until we start to feel the effects of climate change in 2100, the situation will already be much worse. This is why we have to pay attention. We have to do something. And we can. The ice is melting, but the ice is still there. The Amazon is being burned, but the Amazon is still there. Humans are incredibly good at problem solving, and this is just another problem to solve. But we can only do that if we all recognize that there is a problem, and we all recognize that we need to do something about it. Our economy may be dependent on some of these destructive habits, but we don't just live in an economy. We live on a planet. And the more we start to deny that we are destroying it, the more I wonder if people recognize that we are, in fact, the villains of this story.
Hi, so I didn't put together a very good ending for that video, but I really just wanted to explain why it's important that we pay attention to this and why we really need to actually solve this problem, because we're not going to make it at all if we don't fix it. Like, our existence is not going to continue if we don't fix this problem. And I really just wanted to make a video to point that out. Also, tomorrow is the global climate strike. Basically, a bunch of people, myself included, are going to be walking out of school and work and all these sorts of things in order to join a climate strike. You know, there's going to be all sort of events and marches and protests and all kinds of stuff going on tomorrow, which is Friday, September 20th. And I highly doubt that this video will be up before then, because I do not have time to finish it. But I really do want people to join these things that are going on around them, because even if you can't go out and stop big factories from putting out huge amounts of carbon emissions, you still can do small things like activism. You can change your own personal habits with how you use plastic, or how much you use your car, or just the different materials that you use in your everyday life. You can always change that. You can always change that. You can always do something. And I think that it's really important to do so.
Anyway, thank you for watching the video. I know that I have been gone for a while. It's mostly because I expected the freedom and time of summer to make it easier for me to create videos, but it turns out that the lack of structure made it easier for me to not do anything at all. So I didn't in fact do as much as I had planned to, but I will let you know that a lot of the stuff I said I was going to do is in fact on the way, now that school has rolled around. I have a few episodes of trans ed in the works, and that exercise series I said I was going to do, I have in fact done. I have all of it recorded, but I just actually need to sit down and edit it, which is really hard. I recorded at least 30 minutes of footage every single day, and I did it for 63 days. So I have a lot to go through, and I've been procrastinating actually sitting down and doing it. So that will be going up this year. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed learning about our planet.
Jair Bolsonaro. Jair.
Alright, got it.